It's Over Opinionated.
Has anybody ever told you you were over opinionated? How about this one? You can talk about everything you like, but don't talk about religion, don't talk about faith, don't talk about politics. My name is Jerome McClain, host of Jerome McClain's Show, and I want to introduce you to a show called Over Opinionated with my friend from Southwest Virginia, Josh Scott. Josh has always been told he has been over-opinionated. He always tried to hold back these opinions, but he tried to back them up when he had to say something with facts and logic. Since he's grown up in many ways, he had to change a lot of his views and his opinions, as a lot of people should. He's not a millionaire from Fox News or CNN. He's just a hard-working, blue-collar type of guy. Give Josh Scott a shot at Over Opinionated with Josh Scott. You can find him on patreon.com/overopinionated at 679. You can also check him out on Twitter at NRV_guy79. Over Opinionated with Josh Scott, where he is this soft-spoken guy telling you the truth.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Over Opinionated. Man, I got a bunch of stories and headlines. We're definitely not going to be able to cover it all. From the last 2 weeks, I don't think we've covered politics on this show in 3 weeks, because the last episode was about how to deal with someone passing away biblically, and I took a week off for a little bit of a mental health relaxation, just getting a little bit of a mental health breather. Because doing this show can be kind of a little bit of can be quite a bit of a job sometimes. We'll just say that. But I love it, and it doesn't matter if I have one listener or 100. I love doing it. And I'm recently, God's put on my heart to start a ministry, a street ministry, to reaching the lost. When you read the Bible, when you read about the Apostle Paul, he's always going and finding the lost and bringing them into the church. But as Christians, we just want the lost to come to church, and that's not how they did it in the early church. If someone came by, that's great. But they went and they won the lost. They were called fishers of men. So I'm hoping to start a street ministry, holding signs. I eventually want to get a good cross up and be able to hold a cross. And but we have a little bit of some news. We got to get to politics. Joe Biden's had an awful 2 weeks, a complete train wreck for Joe Biden the last 2 weeks. Trump's had some personal struggles with legalities as well, and I think most Americans are like, man, we don't like these two picks, but both parties are salt to their candidate. Listen, I'm voting for Donald Trump. I already voted for Donald Trump in the primary. In Virginia, you can vote early for the Republican or Democrat primary. Obviously, I'm a Republican, so I circled Donald Trump's name on the ballot instead of Nikki Haley's, because he's better than her to represent our party. But Trump's got some flaws, and I will criticize him for his flaws. They're both older. They both have some moments that you think, man, they're getting a little bit older. Biden has a lot more than Trump, a whole lot more, if we're just being honest. And even the mainstream media is attacking him for it. Jon Stewart last week, who came back to The Daily Show. Jon Stewart is a pretty far left comedian who got big on this thing called The Daily Show, where he would go and he was basically a comedic anchorman that made fun of the day's news. He's talented, he's funny, he's far left, but he hit Biden, and a lot of people in the mainstream media did not like him hitting Biden. His exact words, I think, were on the show, but if barbarians are at the gates getting ready to tear down the wall, you want someone that isn't saying chocolate chip cookie. And he was making fun of Joe Biden. Joe Biden recently campaign has just started a TikTok. And in that, he looks like an old man trying to figure out what TikTok is. The mainstream media has to cover how bad Biden is at this point because they can't hide it from people anymore. Last week we had the press conference from hell where Biden, we have Biden reacting to the CIA special report that said he was a well-meaning, forgetful elderly man, and we have him mistaken the president of Egypt for Mexico, getting too confused when talking about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. He called Egypt Mexico. You know, geography nerds might point out that Mexico's a little bit away from Egypt. They're not completely the same region. And then you have him just going off the walls. And then here recently, a couple days ago, just freezing, trying to talk about former President Trump. He just freezes up. He has a Mitch McConnell moment like Mitch did a few months ago where he just froze and forgot everything. And then you have some people in the mainstream media, or they're bringing out the Febreze, trying to make it smell a little bit better, and then some people are covering it because it's really happening and you can't hide it. Rachel Maddow said, Biden, he can at least ride a bike. Well, thank goodness that the man who has the nuclear codes can ride a bike, because he can't do much else. Oh well, but President Trump, it's not like he doesn't have any baggage. America knows a lot of President Trump's baggage, and I actually want to read you a little something about President Trump losing in New York. This is from the Morning Brew. If you like to have a little bit of news, the Morning Brew, I think, does pretty good. It's staying neutral. Now, everyone has somewhat of a bias, but the Morning Brew is pretty good. It's an online newspaper. I get their emails every day. I don't read it every day, but I read it quite often. Let's read their article. Trump has to pay $354 million and step back from New York businesses. The verdict is in for Donald Trump's New York civil fraud case. More than a month after the trial wrapped up, the former president is banned from running a New York company for 3 years and must pay $354 million in damages and fraudulent business tactics, the judge ruled. If the decision holds up on appeal, it'll cost Trump between 13 and 18% of his money, based on his projections from Forbes and the New York Attorney General Office. A refresher: this trial was about Trump overinflating his wealth on financial documents by as much as $3.6 billion, according to the New York Attorney General, and using them to get better bank loans and insuring policies. James alleged that Trump saved at least $168 million by misrepresenting his net worth. How will Trump pay? Trump has vowed to appeal, and he won't have to pay while a higher court considers the case. But a cover over the massive sum he's been ordered to pay in negotiations. Trump could decide to sell off his New York properties. It is not just about one fine. The ruling states that sons of Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. must pay $4 million each and are banned from doing business in New York for 2 years. One-time Trump Organization CFO Alice Wilsenberg must also shell out $1 million. Trump is a company and his affairs cannot apply for loans in New York registered banks for 3 years. A court-appointed independent monitor will receive Trump's organization ventures on a case-by-case basis and consider dissolving or reconstructing a non-compliant business affection limited to Trump's family ability to stir the ship. This is one trial of many. Trump is also defending himself against RICO charges in Georgia, felony hush money charges in Manhattan, and DOJ classified documents at Mar-a-Lago and DOJ federal election charges on top of that. Trump is appealing a recent civil jury case ordering him to pay E. Jean Carroll $83.3 million in defamation, which that was Trump's fault. He just kept stepping on the rake. Yeah, this is bad. I'm not going to lie. I'm a Trump supporter. This is bad. And it's hard for me not to believe this court. Trump is an egotist, and you might say, well, Josh, why are you going to criticize Trump? I told you I support Trump, but he's not perfect. I was hoping we went with DeSantis. We didn't. Okay? Trump's got baggages. He is not nearly as bad as Biden is. It's obvious that these things are very politically motivated, but that doesn't mean that just because something is politically motivated doesn't mean that his dirty laundry doesn't smell bad, because it still does. Now, he has a case in Georgia, in Fulton County, Georgia, where she is charging him with RICO and is charging him on election fraud, Fannie Willis, but there is information, and she is in a trial of her own about corruption, about sleeping with one of her appointees to the case, that she had a romantic relationship with this. And I would read more about this, but let's see how things pan out. Let's see what the judge rules. But I don't think that was a strong case. A lot of these civil cases are stronger because they're not felonies. Trump is not a felon, okay? He probably did defame E. Jean Carroll. I don't believe he actually, did some horrible things to her when it comes to sexual assault. They might have found him guilty of quote-unquote sexual assault, but not the actual complete bad act, and you know what I'm talking about. And, it's going to be very hard for Trump to get a favorable jury in anything in New York, in any case he has. That doesn't mean he's not guilty for anything. It's just true. New York's a very liberal city. Everyone knows that Donald Trump's a former president. It's not like we can get a unbiased juror. Alright. Tucker Carlson went to Moscow and interviewed dictator Vladimir Putin. They call him president, but he's really an oligarchical dictator. In Russia, they don't have real elections. They have fake elections. If you have problems with election integrity in America, boy, you go over to Russia, it's not even close. And we do have free and fair elections in America, but that doesn't mean that things don't get a little bit dicey sometimes and people don't take advantage of, like, national pandemics. With that being said, man, Vladimir Putin is a horrible human being. I watched this whole interview. Well, I listened to this whole interview. For the first hour, it's just Vladimir Putin just talking about Russian history. You know, Tucker, I actually think in this interview, Tucker does a very good job of pushing him at certain times. Now, you might say he didn't push him enough. Okay, maybe he didn't, but he's in a foreign country interviewing a dictator that could hold him hostage for the rest of his life. And at the end of the interview, he does press him on why he will not release an American journalist to freedom. He does press him pretty good. So the interview itself is not a bad interview. But Vladimir Putin kind of grandstands, and he just talks about his version of Russian history the whole time. And listen, in this interview, he looks very sharp. He's very on his toes. He's got it. That's something Biden could not do. Biden could not do that interview. I think Trump could, but obviously it wouldn't be about history in Trump's case, right? But you know, he gives a long, very lengthy explanation of why he's why he's invading Ukraine. Basically, what I got from it, if you watched it or listened to it and you disagree, correct me, is he doesn't believe Ukraine is a sovereign country, and that Russia has a legitimate claim to it. I mean, and that's really what it is. That doesn't, well, obviously that part of what he said bothered me. Tucker's interview itself is not what bothered me when he went over there. It's what he did after that, releasing it on Twitter. He goes to a Russian grocery store and then compares the prices between American groceries and Russian groceries. He goes to a Russian Subway and compares and says, "Look how beautiful this Subway is." It's a beautiful Subway in Moscow. Look, where are the homeless people? He says, "Where's the crimes?" And this is when he falls into just pure radicalized propaganda, and maybe he believes this, but it's stupid if he does. Every dictator makes their capital city, about most of the time, makes their capital city beautiful. They pull as much resources as they can. They make beautiful subways. They make beautiful art. Their infrastructure in the city is beautiful, and then the rest of the country is crap. The rest of the country is fighting for scraps. Even Kim Jong-un in North Korea makes beautiful things, and why his countrymen are starving to death. It kind of reminded me of the movie The Interview. Right when I graduated high school, there's a movie called The Interview. I think it was in 2015, where they go and interview Kim Jong-un, and they have all these fake cities set up, these fake grocery stores, and the interviewer goes out and sees, man, this is fake. He's been lying to me. And it's a comedic movie and everything, but it's yeah, I mean, it's fake. It's all fake. It's a mirage. Yeah, maybe Moscow is beautiful. Maybe they have a beautiful subway system. Maybe in Moscow they have a good grocery store system. But are you telling me that you'd rather be a Russian than an American? And yeah, guess what? Groceries are expensive. I know. I have to buy them. Not a fun time, okay? I think a lot of that's on the President of the United States having a bad economy and setting the tone for a bad economy. Doesn't mean I want to go to Russia. I don't care. Russians have a much harder life than Americans. Okay? They don't have freedom of speech like we do. I don't have to be afraid that if I criticize Joe Biden that I'm going to be in a casket tomorrow. I don't have to do that. I'm free in this country to criticize my government. That is one of the best things about America. You're not free to do that in Mother Russia. And then I'll be honest with you, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, I'm a proud Republican. We have a problem within the Republican Party of glorifying Russia and Putin. why I think some of it's because the culture war here in the United States, the Democrats really champion Ukraine. Um, is Trump really a Russian stooge? No, that's stupid. Trump cannot hold his tongue enough to keep him from losing $83 million to Eugene Carroll in a defamation suit. Do you really think he could keep a secret that he is secretly a KGB operative? I mean, come on, man. As the president likes to say, that's a bunch of malarkey. The current president, that is. But yeah, Tucker Carlson, man, you're too smart for that. You're just being, I don't know. It's a very shameful thing, I think, what you did. And I don't know. We have the Ukrainian aid bill. 70 senators voted for it. I think 29 voted against it. Bill Johnson's against it. He wants a different type of bill. There's back and forth. The Republican Party is divided on the issue of Ukraine. You have, and I'll tell you, it's just like my family. My dad, he's totally against sending one more dollar to Ukraine. He'd be fine with me telling this. My grandpa thinks that we should send every dollar we have until we get Crimea back, which isn't going to happen. I'm in the middle. I'm more realistic. I think we need to support Ukraine because Russia is evil, not because Ukraine is good. Okay, I don't think Ukraine is good compared to a lot of countries. I have a lot of criticisms of Ukraine and Vladimir Zelensky. One of the biggest criticisms I have is the persecution they've been putting against Orthodox Christians, Ukrainian Orthodox Christians. They have silenced them. They've put their priests in jail. And I don't like that. That's my brothers and sisters in Christ that you are persecuting because you think they're more pro-Russia or this or that, and then you banning political parties and stuff. I'm not a fan of Vladimir Zelensky, but sometimes you have to side with Stalin to beat Hitler, and sometimes you have to go with the lesser of two evils. Not that Stalin is really lesser evil than Hitler. They were both equally evil, but we had to use one to defeat the other. Okay, it's just an example. But I'll be honest. I support funding Ukraine within limits, and I've said it before. I'll say it again. The United States needs to have a backbone, and they need to say, we will give you this money, we'll give you this funding, but you're going to have to sit down at the negotiating table with Vladimir Putin, and you're both going to get something you like and what you don't like. Ukraine, you're going to like that you get to keep your country. You're not going to like that you don't get all of it back. Putin, you're not going to like that you're not going to get all of it, but you're going to get some of it. And Ukraine, if you don't like that, fight your own war. With your own money, your own equipment. We're done. You play hardball. And if Russia doesn't like that, Russia, well, guess what? We're going to put a lot more stuff in Ukraine. And that's just the way it is. You're going to have to play hardball. There was foreign aid to Israel, which is good. I think I'm very pro-Israel. I do have criticism about how Israel is handling the response. And I love Israel. I think they're a great country. I think that they are responding too harshly in Gaza, and I think they are bombing too much in Gaza, and I think there is a lack of care for the Palestinians right now. I'll be honest with you. When I see what's going on, does Israel have a right to exist? Absolutely. Is Hamas absolutely an evil, terrorist, radical Islamic organization that wants to kill every Jew? Yes, they are. Do I want them gone completely? Yes, they are. But guess what? There are babies in Gaza. There are mothers in Gaza. There are old in Gaza. There are people in Gaza. And they're made in the image of God. And to see these images coming out of there, I don't know I don't know how you cannot get hurt by that. How you, especially if you're a Christian, how can you look at God's image bearers in this state and not get choked up? The same thing for October 7th. I don't know how you can look at these photos of what happened to these Jewish people on October 7th and not get choked up, but I mean, I want a ceasefire eventually. I mean, this war can't go on forever, and maybe we gotta figure something out in Gaza, where maybe we eventually get to like something that the West Bank has, because this is just too much. And listen, Hamas is to blame. Israel shares responsibility for how harsh they respond. That doesn't mean it's their fault overall, because it's not. But Israel does have to share some. I mean, they have to answer for some pretty brutal tactics and a lot of bombing. And sometimes bombing's okay. Sometimes you go, but it really feels like to a lot of people that Israel trying to kill Palestinians as much as they can? No. But it feels like to most of the world, they just don't care. It's a lack of empathy. It's not them trying to hurt. It's definitely not a genocide. Let's not be silly. It's not a genocide. But it is still brutal. It's still brutal. And I think that it's time to try to close it up and help these people in Gaza that are truly suffering. And I encourage everyone to pray for them. I try to keep the people in Gaza in my prayers that they'll get saved by Christ. Keep the people in Israel in my prayers that they'll get saved by Christ. And the hurting. You don't have to support Palestine to love the Palestinian people, and you don't have to support Israel to love the Israelis. You don't have to support their governments. But let's show a little bit of humanity for once. I mean, it's truly heartbreaking. Some Democrats, a few would not like it because it sends money to Israel. Some Republicans don't like it because they're sending money to Gaza, humanitarian aid. And they'll say Hamas will get a hold of it and they'll use it. And yeah, some of them will. But man, when you see how devastating these people are in Gaza, I don't know. It's just hard. I would vote for the bill. I would. And I know some people on the right have said it, and I've said it before. We send all this foreign aid to money everywhere else, but you're not willing to help out your own country. Listen, I want to help out my own country. I want to do some spending stuff in my own country. Now, financial hawks might not like it, and I know we're in debt, but we need it. We need to help Americans here. But helping Americans here is partially helping people overseas. And just saying, if we can't end fentanyl here, if we can't help the southern border here, then we're not going to help anyone else. I don't agree with that. Let's do both. We're the biggest nation in the history of the world, with the biggest economy in the history of the world. I'm not saying we waste our money. I'm not saying we give our money to everywhere. I'm not saying that at all. But we need to beat Putin. We need to beat him. We're embarrassing him right now, guys. We're embarrassing him that he can't take over a land with a bunch of ragtag people. We're keeping them afloat, man. The United States and Europe is keeping Ukraine afloat. And we're embarrassing Putin. We're embarrassing him. We have Israel. I think we need to defend our ally in Israel, not because I believe they're God's chosen people, not because I do believe that God has a promise for Jewish people, but that's beside the point. Not because this or that, but because they are the best country in the Middle East, even though they have problems, and I've laid out some of their problems with handling this conflict, they are still a bastion of hope in a dark place. We're gonna get to let's talk a little bit before we get to the press conference and the great freezing of Joe Biden and how scary that is. I'll read you a little bit of an article from Fox News about the wife of a political rival that Vladimir Putin had, that he basically killed in Russia. And I am awful at names, even American names. So I'm going to butcher these names. These are Russian, forgive me. Alexa Navalny, wife says Putin killed the father of my children, vows to continue his anti-corruption work. The wife of now deceased Russian opposition leader Alex Navalny said Monday that Russian President, I say dictator, but whatever, Vladimir Putin killed her husband, vowing to continue her late husband's anti-corruption work. The statement from Yulian Michelin comes as Navalny's spokesperson wrote on X that Russia's officials have yet to reveal his official cause of death and will not tell his mother or lawyers how long the investigation is going to take. 3 days ago, Vladimir Putin killed my husband, Alex Navalny said. Putin killed the father of my children. Putin took away the most precious thing I had. Putin took away the closest and most beloved person, Navalny said in a video message, according to the Moscow Times. I have no right to give up. I will continue the work of Alex Navalny. I will continue to fight for our country, and I urge you to stand up with me. She reportedly continued, adding that Putin killed not just a man. He wanted to kill our hopes, our freedom, and our future. Navalny's body reported was found with signs of bruising, while government officials told his mother on Saturday that Navalny died of sudden death syndrome, according to the Rutgers world leaders, including President Biden, are blaming Putin and Russia, announced Navalny's death at a penal colony in Siberia. So they sent him to freeze in Siberia, one of the coldest places on earth, and Putin got his goons to kill him. Okay. On Friday. But the Kremlin is now calling those statements vague. Let me find my spot. Forgive me, guys. The news agency adds, the investigative committee informed the mother and the lawyers that the investigation of the death of Navalny has been extended, and they don't say how long it will take. The cause of his death is unknown. Navalny spokeswoman Carmel Yusuf wrote on X on Monday, they lie, but buy time for themselves and do not even hide it. Alex's mother and his lawyers arrived at the morgue early in the morning. They were not allowed to go in. Yusuf wrote in a post, one of the lawyers literally pushed out when the staff was asked why Alex's body was there. They did not answer. Officials at the KI Free Penal Colony in Sharp, where Navalny died, have told his mother that his body could not be handed over until an investigation had been completed. They said his body was sent to a nearby morgue. Navalny claims she has knew the reason for the delay. Meanly and cowardly, they are now hiding his body, not showing it to his mother, not giving it the patriotic lying and waiting, and traces of another Putin to disappear. She said, refuting the same nerve agents Navalny was poisoned within 2020. We know exactly why Putin killed Alex 3 days ago. We will tell you about it as soon as we will definitely find out and how exactly this crime was carried out. We will name names and show faces. And that's all I'm going to read that. Forgive me. I know I butchered those Russian names. I'm bad enough with American and English names. Putin is an evil dictator. I don't know how else to put that to people. He is an evil, evil man. It really got to me in that interview. Putin said religion, speaking about Christianity and Orthodox Christianity, it comes from the heart. He's a truly good religious man. That his Christianity comes from the heart. Why he kills his opposition leaders. Truly, truly disgusting. Okay, I'm going to show you some clips from Joe Ramblin'. Am I eating pudding or rice? Biden. Here's Joe Biden just, good gosh, whatever you can call this press conference, suffering. Here it is. Here's here's going to be a montage of a few clips.
You know that the conduct of the response in the Gaza Strip has been over the top.
That was rough, guys. I mean, that was rough. Let's keep going.
The president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in.
So here he confuses the president of Egypt for Mexico. It gets worse. We're going to play a few minutes of a little bit of from earlier in the press conference when he talks about his documents and the death of his son.
Wrong. On page 215, if you had a chance, I know it's a thick document. On page 215, the report of the special counsel found the exact opposite. Here's what he wrote. There is, in fact, a shortage of evidence that I willfully retained classified materials related to Afghanistan. On page 12, the special counsel also wrote, for another documents, the decision to decline criminal charges was straightforward. The evidence suggests that Mr. Biden did not willfully retain these documents. The evidence said I did not willfully retain these documents. In addition, I know there's some attention paid to some language in the report about my recollection of events. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. Let me tell you something. Some of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of every Memorial Day.
So he just stops from saying Our Lady of what? I'm not Catholic, Joe, but is it Our Lady of Perpetual Sorrows? Is it Our Lady of this or that? Come on, Joe. Come on. As you say, that's a bunch of malarkey. Then he goes on to Memorial Day, and he just goes past of every day. I bring out this rosary. My son got me for Our Lady of Memorial Day. And listen, he's talking about a very sad subject, okay? I'm not a father. I don't know how it is to lose a son. I don't have a son or a daughter. I know how it is to lose a mother. And, I mean, he's arguing with the special counsel. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep hearing what he has to say.
Every Memorial Day we hold a service remembering him, attended by friends and family and the people who loved him. I don't need anyone to remind me when he passed away or passed away. Simple truth is I sat for a 5-hour interview over 2 days of events going back 40 years. At the same time I was managing an international crisis, their task was to make a decision about whether to move forward with charges in this case. That's their decision to make. That's the counsel's decision to make. That's his job. And they decided not to move forward. For any extraneous commentary, they don't know what they're talking about. It has no place in this report. The bottom line is the matter is now closed. I'm going to continue what I've always focused on, my job of being President of the United States of America.
President Biden, something the special counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president. I put this country back on its feet. I don't need his recommendation. It's
How
totally
bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak. That's
Do you feel your memory has gotten worse, Mr. President?
My memory is not good. My memory is fine. My memory, take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen? You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Mr. President, for months when you were asked about your age, you would respond with the words, "Watch me." Many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. It's not the judgment of the press. No, it's America's judgment. You couldn't even say Our Lady of Memorial Day. Oh, that's a bunch of malarkey. I have hairy legs. Kids love jumping on my hairy legs and touching them. That's a campaign thing from Joe Biden. Doesn't know what day it is most of the time. Okay, this is weekend at Bernie's. Listen, I'm someone that struggles with my words. If you listen to this podcast, you know I'm someone that sometimes has Biden moments. I'm not the President of the United States of America, and I'm not 81 years old. I'm 27, and I know what I'm talking about. You don't. You don't know what you're talking about. This is scary. Oh my goodness. And then Peter Ducey from Fox News asked him the question. The special counsel says you're a well-meaning elderly man. He just blows it off. I'm well-meaning. I'm elderly. But I'm not forgetful. Well, that was in the report that you were forgetful, okay? That was in the report. Well, okay, let's listen to his recent meltdown from a couple days ago. Alright, here's a comment President Biden made about President Trump. And President Trump said something really stupid. He said, and I don't believe it was actual. It was a joke, but it was still stupid and sloppy. But Trump tries to get everyone to pay their NATO dues. If you're in NATO, you're supposed to pay, I think, 2% of your GDP to your military. A lot of countries don't do that, and they piggyback off the United States. So Trump said, if you don't pay your dues, I'll get Vladimir Putin to invade you. I'll encourage it. I won't defend you. Stupid. I think it was a joke. Okay. He wouldn't do that if he was the president of the United States, okay? If he was president again, that would not happen. Trump said a bunch of crap that he never did. And he tweeted a bunch of crap that he never did. And I wish he was more careful with his language. I agree. But let's hear what Biden's word salad of the day is. And as he just pulls a Mitch McConnell and freezes in another press conference yet again.
That invited Russia to invade our NATO allies if they weren't paying up. He said if an ally did not pay their dues, he'd encourage Russia to, quote, do whatever the hell they want. I guess I should my mind here a little bit and not say what I'm really thinking.
What were you thinking, Joe? Because it didn't look like there was anyone home. Earth to Biden. This is Houston. Earth to Biden. This is Houston. How are you doing up there? That's a bunch of malarkey. Corn Pop was a bad dude. Hey, we haven't heard from Corn Pop. Let's play Corn Pop. Now this was back in 2020, but most people sometimes I will reference Corn Pop and they have no idea who I'm talking about. Let's go to Corn Pop, man. I freaking love that story. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and this. Corn Pop was a bad dude. Earth to Biden, this is Houston calling. Are you alright? Alright, this is from 4 years ago in the 2020 campaign. It will never leave my memory. Take it away, Joe.
I learned a lot. And I learned that it makes a difference. This was the diving board area, and I was one of the guards, and they weren't allowed to. There was a 3-meter board. And you fell off sideways, you landed on the darn cement over there. And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys. And I did. And back in those days, to show how things have changed, one of the things you had to use, if you used pomade in your hair, you had to wear a bathing cap. And so he was up on the board, wouldn't listen to me. I said, hey, Esther, you, off the board, or I'll come up and drag you off. Well, he came off. And he said, I'll meet you outside. My car, these were all public housing behind it. My car, there was a gate out here. I parked my car outside the gate. And he said, I'll be waiting for you. He was waiting for 3 guys in straight razors. Not a joke. There was a guy named Bill Wright, Mouse, the only white guy, and he did all the pools. He was the mechanic. And I said, what am I going to do? He said, come down here in the basement where mechanics, where all the pool filter is. You know the chain, there used to be a chain that went across the deep end. And he cut off a 6-foot length of chain. He folded up, he said, you walk out with that chain. And you walk to the car and say, you may cut me, man, but I'm going to wrap this chain around your head. I said, you kidding me? He said, no, if you don't come back. And he was right. So I walked out with the chain. And I walked up to my car. And they had, those days, used to remember the straight razor, you'd bang them on the curb, get them rusty, put them in the rain barrel, get them rusty. And I looked at them, but I was smart then. I said, first of all, I said, when I tell you get off the board, you get off the board, I'll kick you out again, but I shouldn't have called you Esther Williams. I apologize for that. I apologize, but I didn't know that apology was going to work. He said, you apologize to me? I said, I apologize for that, not for throwing you out. But I apologize for what I said. He said, okay, closed the straight razor, and my heart began to beat again.
That will never be old. Corn Pop was a bad dude. Oh my goodness. That'll never be old. Instead of a Bible verse of the day, I want to read you a little something from C.S. Lewis from the Screwtape Letters. It's a fantastic book about 2 demons writing to each other about how to entice a young man to go over to the dark side. And I just want to read it a little bit to you today. So we won't have a Bible verse of the day, but we will have a reading of the day, if that's okay. This is from C.S. Lewis, the Screwtape Letters, in chapter 1. He doesn't think of doctrines as primarily true or false, but as academic or practical, outworn or contemporary, conventional or ruthless. Jargon, not argument, is your best bet, Allie, in keeping him from the church. Don't waste time trying to make him think that materialism is true. Make him think it is strong or stark or courageous, that it is the philosophy of the future, that the sort of thing he cares about. The trouble about argument is that it moves the whole struggle on to the enemy's ground. He can argue too. Where else in reality practical propaganda of kind? I am suggesting he has been shown for centuries to be greatly inferior for our father below. By the very act of arguing, you awake the patient's reason, and once it is awake, who can foresee the result? Even if a practical train of fault can be twisted so as to end in our favor. You will find that you have been strong-handed and you're patient. The fatal habit of attending the universe issue and withdrawing his attention from the steam and immediate sense of experience. Your business is to fix his attention on this scene. Teach him to call it real life. Don't let him ask whoever what he means by real. Remember, he is not like you, a pure spirit, never having been a human. Oh, that antibody advantage of our enemy. You don't realize how enslaved they are to persecutions of the ordained. I once had a patient, a sound atheist, who used to read in the British Museum. One day he sat reading. I saw a train of thought and his mind began to go the wrong way. The enemy, of course, was his elbow at the moment. Before I knew where I was, I saw my 20 years' work begin to toil. If I had lost my head and began to attempt a defense by argument, I should have been undone. But I was not such a fool. I struck instantly at the part of a man which I had best under control and suggested that it was just about time he had some lunch. The enemy pursued and made him counter-suggest. You know how one can never quite unhear what he has to say to them? That is what's more important to lunch. At least I think that I must have been in his line when I quite, in fact, had two important to tackle at the end of the morning. The patient begrunted up considerably, and by the time I had it much better came back after lunch, and to go with it with a fresh mind. He was already halfway out the door. Once he was in the street, the battle was won. I showed him a newsboy shouting the midday paper and a number 37 bus going past, and before he reached the bottom of the step, I had got into him an unalterable conviction that whatever odds might make a man's head when he was shut up and alone with his books, a healthy dose of real life. Okay, we're going to stop there. This is pretty brilliant by C.S. Lewis. This is before cell phones, computers, and the internet takes effect. That he's writing this. The demon, quote unquote, gets us sucked into real life. Don't question what real life is. A lot of times we have it backwards. We think that social media is real life. It's not. We think that Twitter is real life. It's not. We think that our phones are the real life. It's not. And that the escape is pulling away from it, actually. And then when we're ready to get away from our escape, we go back to real life. That's dangerous, folks. And then he says, don't argue with God. Basically, we can't win the arguments. Don't convince him if materialism is true or not. Make that it's a strong argument. Make that it is that is desirable. Make him think things are academic more than true. That's when you become so smart that you're stupid, that you're looking into academics as hard as you can. It's scary thoughts, people. This is from C.S. Lewis from like 50 years ago. We see this every day. Screw Tape Letters is timeless. I really think God had a hand in it. It's not like a book of the Bible, obviously. It's not infallible. But it's really thought-provoking. And so much of our country is sucked up on quote-unquote real life. Please pray for our country. Please pray that we win the lost. Pray for both the people running the presidential election. Well, everyone running in the presidential election. We have a few candidates. Pray that God will forgive us as a nation and we will repent and seek His face. Pray for the unborn babies. Every day we want to fight for unborn children. If you donate to the Patreon, Every time I take a Patreon payout, which has only been once, I give 10% to help unborn babies and give it to a pro-life pregnancy resource center that gives back to unexpected mothers and unborn babies and recently born babies. God bless you all. Stay attuned. Read. Please don't let me be the only source of news. Okay, I can't do that. I wish I had a studio and I did 5 podcasts a week. I can't, folks. I try my best to get 1 out a week, and sometimes I don't do that. But pray, read, reach out to me if you want to talk or need a question. God bless you, and I will see you back here in the next episode.